One kick can erase 120 minutes of hard work. But here's the real question. Is that actually fair? Imagine this. It's the FIFA World Cup Final. The score is 1-1. 120 minutes have passed. Every player is exhausted. Every tackle has mattered. Every save has mattered. Every pass has mattered. The stadium is silent. Millions of people around the world are holding their breath. Then the referee points to the center circle. Not for another attack, not for extra time, for a penalty shootout. And suddenly, everything changes. One player steps forward, one goalkeeper stands on the line, one kick, one moment, one mistake, and an entire nation could be heartbroken forever. But here's something that almost nobody talks about. Should the biggest football tournament in the world really be decided by just a few penalty kicks? Most fans say yes. It's exciting, it's dramatic, it's unforgettable, and they're right. Penalty shootouts create some of the greatest moments in football history, but excitement doesn't always mean fairness. Keep that thought in your mind, because by the end of this video, you might never look at a penalty shootout the same way again. Now imagine you're a player. You've just spent 2 hours running across the pitch. You've defended, you've attacked, you've sacrificed everything for your team. Then your coach looks at you and says, "You're taking the next penalty." Suddenly, the entire match no longer matters. Your perfect passes don't matter. Your tackles don't matter. Your assists don't matter. Everything comes down to one kick. Would you call that fair? Or would you call it cruel? But here's where the story gets even more interesting. Because football didn't always use penalty shootouts. In fact, there was a time when the World Cup had no penalty shootouts at all. So how did teams decide a winner? Believe it or not, the answer sounds almost unbelievable today. Some matches were decided by flipping a coin. Yes, a coin. One random toss could decide which nation stayed alive and which nation went home. Sounds ridiculous, right? But that's exactly what happened. And FIFA knew football deserved something better, so they searched for a new solution. They wanted something dramatic, something simple, something every fan could understand. That's when penalty shootouts were introduced. At first, everyone believed FIFA had solved the problem. But did they? Or did they simply replace one unfair system with another? That's the question nobody asks. And the answer is far more surprising than most football fans realize. Now think about this. When a striker scores from open play, he beats defenders, he creates space, he times his run perfectly, he makes dozens of decisions in just a few seconds. A penalty is completely different. There are no defenders, no passing, no movement. Just one player against one goalkeeper. So here's another question. Does a penalty shootout really test the best football team, or does it simply test who handles pressure better? Because those are two very different things. And that difference has changed football history more than once. Then something happened that shocked the entire football world. Scientists, psychologists, and even statisticians started studying penalty shootouts. What they discovered completely changed the way people looked at them. Some teams were already at a disadvantage before the first penalty was even taken. How is that possible? That's exactly what we're about to find out. The scientists weren't trying to answer one simple question. They wanted to answer something much bigger. Does the better team actually win a penalty shootout, or does the luckier team win? At first, most football fans believed the answer was obvious. The best penalty takers always win. Sounds reasonable. But when researchers analyzed hundreds of professional penalty shootouts from leagues, continental tournaments, and the FIFA World Cup, they found something shocking. The team that takes the first penalty wins far more often than the team that kicks second. Think about that for a moment, before anyone even touches the ball. One team may already have a psychological advantage. But why? Here's where football becomes less about skill and more about pressure. Imagine you're taking the very first penalty. If you score, the pressure immediately shifts to the other team. Now imagine you're taking the second penalty. Every single kick feels like a response. If your opponent scores, you have to score. If they keep scoring, you have to keep matching them. You're always chasing. And in football, chasing creates pressure. Pressure creates mistakes. So here's a question. If one team starts with a mental advantage before the shootout even begins, can we really call it completely fair? But FIFA knew about this problem. And that's where the story takes another unexpected turn. Over the years, experts suggested different solutions. Some wanted both teams to alternate differently. Others wanted a completely new penalty system. One idea was inspired by tennis. Another was inspired by tie-break formats used in other sports. The goal was simple: reduce the advantage of kicking first. But changing football is never easy. Millions of fans hate changing traditions, even when those traditions aren't perfect. So FIFA faced a difficult decision: protect fairness or protect tradition? Which one would you choose? Now let's go back to the players. Picture yourself standing on the halfway line. Your teammates are behind you. The stadium is almost silent. 50,000 people are watching. Millions more are watching from home. The goalkeeper is staring directly into your eyes. The referee blows the whistle. You have just a few seconds to decide. Left, right, power, placement, or maybe wait for the goalkeeper to move. Every decision feels enormous, and that's exactly why some of the greatest footballers in history have missed penalties. Not because they lack skill, because they were human. Even legends feel fear. Even legends feel pressure. Even legends make mistakes. Now ask yourself this: should one moment of pressure erase an entire tournament of brilliant performances? Imagine a midfielder who controlled every match, a defender who made 10 perfect tackles, a goalkeeper who produced world-class saves for 120 minutes. None of it matters if one penalty is missed. That's what makes shootouts so emotional. They're unforgettable, but they're also heartbreaking. And here's something even more surprising. Some coaches spend weeks preparing for penalty shootouts. They study where players usually shoot. They analyze goalkeeper reactions. They watch hundreds of old penalties. Everything is planned. Everything is calculated. Yet one small moment, one slip, one bad bounce, or one incredible save can destroy the entire plan. Football suddenly becomes unpredictable again. So here's another question. If preparation can't guarantee success, what actually decides a penalty shootout? The answer isn't what most fans think, because in the next part, we'll discover why some World Cup penalty shootouts changed football history forever, and whether FIFA should replace them with something completely. So what actually decides a penalty shootout? Is it skill, experience, luck, or something much bigger? The truth is, it's a combination of all four, and that's exactly why penalty shootouts remain one of football's biggest controversies. Let's go back to the World Cup. Some of the greatest teams ever assembled. Never lost because they played worse. They lost because of penalties. Think about Italy in 1994. After an exhausting World Cup campaign, everything came down to one final kick. Roberto Baggio, one of the greatest players of his generation, stepped forward with the hopes of an entire nation on his shoulders. Millions of people believed he would score, but football had other plans. The ball flew over the crossbar. Brazil became world champions. Italy's dream was over. One moment, one kick, one mistake, and an entire career became linked to a single penalty. Now ask yourself something. Should one missed kick define a football legend? Most fans would say no, but history often remembers the miss more than everything that came before it. And Baggio wasn't the only one. Over the years, World Cups have produced countless penalty heartbreaks. Players who were heroes for 120 minutes became villains in just a few seconds. Not because they lacked talent, not because they stopped trying, but because football demanded one impossible moment under impossible pressure. Now imagine you're that player. You know that if you score, your country celebrates. If you miss, millions of people remember it forever. Could anyone truly prepare for that? Probably not. But here's where everything changes. Despite all the criticism, nobody has ever found a perfect replacement. People have suggested longer extra time, golden goal, silver goal, corner counts, possession, even replaying the entire match. Every idea sounds interesting until you imagine it happening in a real World Cup. Then new problems appear. Longer matches exhaust players even more. Replays destroy tournament schedules. Statistics can't measure courage. Possession doesn't always reward the better team. Every solution creates another problem. And that's why FIFA has kept penalty shootouts. Not because they're perfect, but because every alternative may be even worse. So here's the biggest question of all. Are penalty shootouts unfair? Or are they simply the least unfair way to decide a winner? That's a completely different conversation, because football has never promised perfect fairness. The ball can hit the post. A defender can slip. The weather can change. A referee can make a mistake. Sometimes football is decided by moments nobody can control. And maybe that's exactly why billions of people love it. The uncertainty, the emotion, the heartbreak, the impossible pressure. Without those moments, would football still feel magical? Or would it become just another game? Now think back to the very beginning of this story. One kick, one player, one goalkeeper. At first, it looked completely unfair, but after everything we've discovered, the real answer isn't so simple. Penalty shootouts don't always choose the better team. They choose the team that survives the greatest pressure. And maybe in the biggest tournament on earth, that's a skill too. So let's go back to our original question. Are penalty shootouts completely unfair? Or are they the only way football can end a match that simply refuses to find a winner? Now it's your turn. If FIFA asked for your opinion tomorrow, what would you choose? Keep penalty shootouts or find a new way to decide the World Cup? Comment your answer below. because sometimes the most painful moment in football is also the reason we never stop watching.